everybody. Welcome to Squared Up, our podcast from the Swinford Media Group. I'm Bill Swinford. You might wonder why I'm wearing this helmet. Everybody in this room is. But the reason is we're going to talk a little firefighting and firefighting documentation today with Tom Mann, who has quite a history in that field. And I won't be wearing this helmet the whole time, but I get to wear it for a few minutes. Tom's got several of these in our studio, and it's so much fun. And so he let me wear his helmet for a little bit as we talk about what you do. And you do a lot of things. I mean, I met you at WSIL TV.
Yeah, that's
almost 20 years ago.
That's been 20 years ago. Yeah.
And I had no idea even at that time everything that you had done, everything you had been into. But one of the things that we've learned over time is that you have all of this history with fire departments, and you have not just gear and fun helmets. You're not just there playing firefighter. You're there in the middle of this thing, helping document what firefighters do and the way that they put themselves literally in the line of fire. And we are excited to hear more about this because I know you're originally from Memphis, so a lot of this is Memphis-based. And you mentioned that right now you're going back and forth from here to Memphis, working on a project down there. So let's start with that. What's the project you're working on down there?
I think it's been almost 25 something years. Yeah, it's been 25 years ago. Memphis started a fire museum, and it came out of the Memphis Fire Department. And the director at the time was underneath the mayor, a guy named Charlie Smith, who's kind of his vision. And it was kind of a public education place and to show you old things for firefighting, all the helmets, the gear, but it was mainly for public education. And so one of the things they had a room where you could go inside of this room and you watched the room catch on fire, but it was done safely because it was 3 huge screens. That room literally catches on fire in front of you. You see about 6-8 minutes how quick something goes in a home. At the same time, you get to see the family get out and do what they do, call 911. You see the 911 operators answer everything. Then you see the fire department respond. And it's kind of like an experience. And while you're in that room, it's what's kind of crazy you don't realize, but the temperature goes up and it heats up in the room while you're in there. And you're safely watching a fire in front of you, but it's kind of a safe room. And now they've asked me to go back and do it again. So I'm doing something I did 25 years ago. So we're literally got some contractors building 2 mini buildings that have kitchens in them. And we're setting the kitchens on fire, and we're filming that. It takes between 6 and 8 minutes to totally burn the place up.
So you're building 2 kitchens.
To burn.
To burn.
Yeah, a fun thing to do. Firefighters love doing this, and this is safely being done. I did it years ago, and it's kind of a cool thing to do.
Now, am I right in thinking that this is a place that any of us could visit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's downtown in Memphis on Adams Street, right near actually near the river. And it's a museum. It's called Memphis Fire Museum. The Fire Museum of Memphis, I think, is what it actually is.
So, I mean, one more reason to visit Memphis, which is a great visit anyway. Yeah. I mean, you got Graceland. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. You got
Sun Studios.
You got Sun Studios. You've got Martin Luther King things wrapped around him, including the hotel where he was assassinated. And
Civil Rights Museum.
A beautiful Civil Rights Museum right next to that. Another thing to go to when you go to Memphis, and I'll look forward to going. Well, so that sounds like a good time, and I want you to tell, before I take the helmet off, I want you to tell everybody what EFD stands for and a little bit more about your history doing these kind of things.
I guess it's been probably, 20, no, it's 1992. I had the crazy idea and went and begged at the time to ride with firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, and kind of like I always wanted to be a firefighter when I was a kid. And I wanted to document what they did. I'd run around with the cops crews way back when that started. I was just fascinated with how they were filming that. And I learned about it. I thought, can you do this with firefighters? So I was working on either documentary or series. And I got permission to ride with Memphis Fire Department pretty much as long as I wanted. And I developed a relationship, and in the process, I started a little project which was called Emergency FD, meaning the Emergency Fire Department. I started a little brand. And at the time, I did videos and we're doing little things and working on a television series. But back in the day, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't any of the things we have now. So it was broadcast television or videotape. That was it.
Right.
So that's how it started. But while doing it, I wound up shooting video and incidences that wound up being on like national networks. PBS Nova did a big project one day, and I think it's called Accidents When They Happen. A lot of my video was featured there and on many other networks. And then I started developing videos for the fire service and fire emergency television networks and for training. And so I wound up riding with Memphis for 10 years, almost every single day. I wound up writing in New York pre 9/11. I got stories on that, and standing in front of the World Trade Centers and having a battalion chief tell me how they were going to come down. This was like in 1997. Wow. My son later became a firefighter, and he actually started here at Williamson County Fire Department, volunteered, went in the Air Force, came back, came and worked at Williamson County, then got recruited by Memphis. And
Your son's
my
name?
son. His name is Thomas Russell Mann Jr.
Okay, Tom Mann Jr. So a lot of you,
Junior.
a lot
They
of
know
you
him
may
as
know.
Junior.
Yeah, you may know Junior.
And all the firefighters here know him as Junior. That's usually what it is, or Thomas. And he wound up being in special operations, which is kind of like the Navy SEALs of the fire department. So he rode on the rescue rigs, rappelled out of buildings. He's a firefighter paramedic. And when he got involved, he said, "Dad, you need to kind of resurrect those old videos." He was really fascinated with them back in the day. And I started putting some things up on YouTube. And then after I had left a job here, a television job management, I wound up, well, I'll do that. So I was planning on doing a lot of filming, but COVID hit. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to start a podcast, which I did. And with the help of my friend who you met from Australia, she kind of told me what a
Danny.
podcast was, Danny, which I do another podcast with. And it's called Emergency FD Storyline. And what's happened with it, it's kind of grown. And even though it's been audio-based, we're moving that into more video. We deal with a lot of issues first responders go through, like a lot of PTSD issues. Big problem with suicide with first responders. And it's kind of a safe space where they can talk about the things they experience, share their stories. Some of them are pretty dramatic, and talk about those issues. And that's what I started working on. So it's called Emergency FD Storyline. It's about on every platform out there. And with that, I'm back now doing some of the same things again. I even here in the area, we featured Marion, Carbondale. We feature Williamson County. So they've been a part of it. So I use a lot of the firefighters in this area because we have some amazing fire departments in Williamson County, and they work really well together. Although I still do a lot of things with Memphis because I guess I've kind of been known for being there for so long. And one of the highlights was recently there was a mass shooting in Collierville, Tennessee, outside of Memphis, in that suburb, place they thought it would never happen. They said, oh, this would happen in Memphis, but not in Collierville. And it was the first time paramedics went in with the police department, fire department, and the police department went in together during the active shooter situation, working on people. And out of, I think there was close to 19 or 20 people that were shot, only one died. Wow. Because of the quick action of fire and EMS and police working together. So we got to share that. Also won a international award, actually, with the International Association of Firefighters, IFF, Best Storytelling for the year in 2023, and got that one because I did an interview with the two ladies in Carbondale, which are called the Bad Axe Ladies of Carbondale, and they started a mentoring program for young women who want to be firefighters, and that got a lot of attention, actually around the world, and we won an award for that. And so that had some roots right here in Southern Illinois, and that was kind of exciting, but it's made a big impact.
Let's just take a second since you mentioned that. Let's give a shout out to the women that are in firefighting now. Yeah. And I pastor a little church out in the country, Pleasant Grove Church.
Yeah.
In my church alone, I have LaRonda Lambert, whose husband Ed is still an active volunteer, but LaRonda was the first female in the Williamson County Fire Protection District volunteer. Now LaRonda's, I'm not going to say how old LaRonda is, but she's not doing it anymore. But I could just see her out there, driving the pumper or something to the scene, and she's just got that kind of a personality. In our church also, We have two others that are a couple, Gunnar and Josie, who are involved. And these are the type of people, when you meet them, they're just so representative of every firefighter that I've ever met.
Yeah.
Anytime you get to know your local fire station and get a little tour or meet anybody there, you realize these are very special people that are willing to do this either as a living or even as a volunteer to be these kind of first responders that come on a scene, throw on their helmets, throw on their gear, and jump in, and yet they are so well trained at exactly how to respond to these situations. Obviously, they are concerned about the safety of everyone, including the firefighters, but first and foremost, they are looking to see if anybody's life is on the line, if there's any real danger to human life or even animal life, and they jump in there and they do what they need to do, and then they do so much to save the structures. Just recently downtown here on the square, we had a building that many of you will know is Little Nashville. Went up in flames, and we're right next door to Little Nashville, so our building was in jeopardy. We got a lot of smoke damage. But in talking to Tim Barnett after that fire, he pointed out how that building could have gone up so
Because
easily.
those older buildings.
They got these tall timbers in them, and the thing could have gone to the roof so easily. So in that case, you had somebody that reported seeing smoke coming out of the bottom, thankfully at 5 a.m, and the fire station was right on the scene with all of that support from the other departments. And so you can't say enough about our local firefighters, and I'm just so impressed with the work that you do documenting these. Not, as you mentioned, not just the time on the scene, not just the quick response, but also then what these firefighters have to go through to deal with what they've dealt with in those situations.
One little thing a lot of people don't realize in this area is that the fire departments work so well together. I mentioned that a little bit earlier, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. For instance, Williamson County Fire, it's majority volunteers. Mm-hmm. Well, what's been amazing, that particular organization, they've fed into every other fire department from Marion, Carbondale. They feed into the other ones like Heron. And there are even some chiefs and all that have come from the Williamson County. Williamson County has done the original training, a lot of these individuals. Wow, yeah. They feed into the other departments, and they all work together. I know there are also many other departments, which I hear Jeremy Norris, who's the fire chief of Williamson County, talks about, just send another one to Memphis. But they have many individuals that have come out of Williamson County. But all these departments work together. They have a great mutual aid program, meaning that when there's a big fire, like, for instance, the building you were talking about, every department around here has a specialty. So Marion has something like with hazmat and all these other things. Well, when there's a big fire like that, they call on the neighboring fire departments. So Heron will be there. You'll see Carbondale sometimes coming over there. You'll see mutual aid. Mm-hmm. Powerful what they do. Williamson County, for instance, is one of the best fire departments I've ever seen what's called tanking, because around here, most of the fire departments don't have water they can use. They have to tank it in, shuttle it in. Right. Williamson County provides that for just about everyone in this whole area. So it's an amazing group of fire services that we have here. I'm very proud to have got to know them, and I've documented some of the things they do, and just great groups, great chiefs, and everyone's very cooperative. It's kind of like with everything in the community. All the towns work together. They help each other, and that benefits each and every one of us, because when you call that 911, somebody comes. And sometimes you'll see a neighboring department like, well, what's Heron doing here? Well, they're calling doing mutual aid if another department's out or they're shorthanded. They're
covering the department.
Everybody covers everybody. And there's been that, you covered it about a year ago, story about Marion getting a new fire ladder truck.
Right.
And they gave 2 away, and then Bank of Heron was involved, Harrison Bruce Foundations were involved, and what was cool was that all of a sudden Williamson County got a truck from Marion, so did Carterville get a truck from Marion. What was interesting is that all these particular departments worked together, so really those apparatus never really left Marion,
right.
So now there's 3. And so there's some really unique stories here, and we should be very proud about the fire departments. But the individuals here, very talented. My son, who is, I got to say, one of the best, one of the top ones in special operations. He's been in Memphis now. He's with the Germantown Fire Department. He credits everything that he learned from Williamson County and the Williamson County area from the fire department there as a volunteer. He's like, I know how to do everything. He said, I showed up in a big city. I could run and work everything. Wow. And he said, most of the guys in the cities can't do that. He said that was because of the training that these guys get in this area. So there's a wonderful group of people and dedicated. Yeah. They really care.
Yeah. Well, just in Marion alone, I think about the number of fire chiefs that I've worked with over the years. And
good guys. And Tim's great.
One of them being Anthony Ranella, who ended up as mayor of Marion for a short amount of time. There's such quality human beings in this mix. And you mentioned Jeremy Norris. Jeremy and I first worked together actually at the Marion Daily Republican.
That's right.
30 plus years ago. And that's when I met a young Jeremy, and I was a young Bill. And so as I saw him go on, we worked together again in another paper, but as I saw him go on full time and become chief at the Williamson County Fire Protection District, I always thought, that could have been me. Because we both started off at the same place. And then I put this helmet on. I was like, I wouldn't last 5 minutes out there. But it's so, I mean, Jeremy's great and impressive. And he's going through some health issues right now.
Right.
And we send out our love and prayers to him. You know, his support team, his volunteers there, just, they don't miss a beat. And they keep it going. The one that's out in the Crab Orchard area, the station out there, I saw all the trucks pulled out there on Sunday morning. I was going to our little church that we pastor, and they were washing the trucks. I mean, it's just you realize, as you mentioned, the sharing of equipment, it's come so far through the years. We've told a lot of stories, go back 100 years in Marion, and they struggled. Matter of fact, just about every corner of the square has had a major fire through the years, and some of them, our building included, burned about 60 years ago, and some of those buildings survived, some of them didn't. But back in the day, they really struggled to get the water and even get the trucks to the location. One of my favorite stories is back in the early days of the square, they got so excited because they had their first engine truck. So in other words, it wasn't pulled by horses. I used to keep the horses just down off the square for the fire department. Well, they moved out the horses and they moved in their engine. So all this engine had to do was come 2 blocks up a hill. It's just if you know Marion, it's just a very mild hill up.
Yeah.
But it was still dirt roads, muddy conditions, and they tried to drive that thing up to deal with a fire on the square. They couldn't get it 2 blocks up the hill
because of the mud, because of all that.
Because of the mud. So it lost another building at that time. Just think about where that's gone, even since the 60s and 70s, and in recent years, the level of equipment, training, the people have always been great. But it's as you can testify as you have testified, we are very blessed around here to have not just the level of experience and training, but the cooperation between the departments, the way they work together.
It's an amazing thing. You know, some of the stories here that, I think of a friend of mine, probably you know him, Todd Greiner, who was in the he was in a plane crash a while back. Right. I've done interviews with him, and also my son was at that one. He just left the Air Force. He went to that, and Williamson County, for instance, they control that airport as far as Williamson County Fire Department. Right. That is one of the main things they do. They specialize in aircraft fire rescue. Out of
what's now called Veterans
Airport. Yeah, and that was a big deal. And Todd's alive because of the efforts of the Williamson County Fire. And then also I think the helicopter that came in and the flight nurses on that. Just amazing stories. But we're able to do all of that here. And they specialize in all kinds of brush fires. I mean, they're like experts at this stuff. And we're talking about all these departments, and I'm really impressed with it, and the stories and the individuals. And again, back to what I do is try to tell their stories. And so that's what I do. One of the things with the podcast to do is to tell that story so you can hear what they do, how they do it, and they're just amazing heroes.
So go ahead and tell people how to find some of your stuff.
Well, you can find my Emergency FD Storyline podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify. Just look for Emergency FD Storyline. You can also find it on my website called emergencyfd.com or emergencyfdstoryline.com. You find us there. It's simple to find. We're on YouTube now, and that's even going to get more prevalent because we're moving to a video podcast with that. But that's how you can get that podcast. So it's audio. It's pretty much on every Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music.
Your YouTube channel. They can
Yeah, they can find it on there, which is called Emergency FD Storyline, and you can usually look that up. But Emergency FD, the word storyline, but also our website emergencyfd.com. You can find all those things there.
So let's go to the even though this is the Man's Man podcast, let's see if our ladies, we have Monica and Abbie sitting over there. Let's see if we have any questions from the behind the scenes.
Actually, I don't. You guys covered everything. You guys covered everything. I'm just listening to the stories he's telling, and my mom heart is just going out in gratefulness to have a team of people working together to bring in protection, for these kind of incidences. The thought of a kitchen going out in 6 minutes just kind of terrifies me. So I'm just really grateful that you guys are out there working together as a team to protect us and to keep us safe and bringing information that will help us to be aware and to keep ourselves safe. And so my mom heart is just grateful.
Yeah, and that's another thing that you always love to see is when the fire departments get around to the schools and they have their little smokehouses, firehouses that they take around and give them the training and take seriously all those things that they always talk about keeping your batteries updated in your smoke detectors and other ways to make sure you have extinguishers in the house that are working, that you know where they're at. Something I was always taught in school, stop, drop, and roll. Never used that in my life, but you never know. If you catch on fire, stop, drop, and roll.
This thing we were talking about earlier that I'm working on, part of the reason is to tell people, let them know how quick things can happen. Mm-hmm. And something happens in your home, you get out and call 911.
Right.
You don't try to do this yourself.
Yeah, if you're not on fire, don't stop, drop,
don't do that.
Just get out.
And again,
good tip.
I'm not a firefighter, and I don't claim to be because these are special individuals. Went through training quite a few times. Know a lot about it, but it really takes that special person. And part of the thing is that if you have questions about any of these things, like issues in your home, safety things, you can always stop by one of the fire stations. And the first role of a fire service is public education.
Right.
It's actually not putting the fire out or doing the emergency medical and those things or rescuing you in a car. It's actually public education. So around here, they do that quite well.
Oh, and they'll come to your house and check your detectors for you.
Smoke detectors.
And help you with that.
That is a key thing. Yeah. Never, ever have a house without one and a working one. And not just one, have many.
Right.
And I mean, I've learned that and being around a lot of this and seeing the devastation of it.
And they'll go to your business. They'll put together a plan ahead of time. They like to know, how your building's laid out. They will, in some cases, set you up with a box outside that there's a key that they can get in if they need to, those kinds of things. And
it's not getting in your business, it's actually to prevent, and that's what they're there for. And you got to remember these men and women that are around here, they're our neighbors. They usually know people.
Yeah.
And when something happens to someone, I mean, you can imagine they'll show up to a car wreck and there's a fatality.
Yeah.
They usually know the person.
Yeah.
There's something happens at a home. They usually know who that is. Somehow one of them knows it. So it's very, it's very intimate to the fire service and firefighters.
And they got to do their job.
They do their job no matter what. So
shout out to them for the fine work they do. Fire protection also affects your insurance rates. I mean, we have great ratings for our fire departments that help lower your insurance cost as well. So all good reasons to bring attention to them as you're doing and keep up that good work. And boy, nobody can document something like Tom Mann. And on this podcast, if you're listening to it, I'm sure you've enjoyed it. But if you get a chance to go watch the YouTube version of this, he's going to share some images and video and things that you'll enjoy seeing too, to kind of describe some of what, or kind of show some of what we've been describing, right?
That sounds good. Yeah, that's what we'll do.
Tom, man, you're a good man.
All right. You are too, Bill.
Thank you.
Enjoy working with you all the time.
Absolutely. It's been fun.
He's a hoot. He really is.
I'm a hoot.
Yeah, you're a hoot.
Well, thank you, I guess.
I
Anyway,
don't know.
next time Monica will be back here,
Yeah, she's much prettier.
and soon Abbie will be back here with
Yeah.
some tips. But in the meantime, it's been great having Tom Mann as part of this very special episode of Squared Up.
Squared up.
Whenever you hear that,
That's
it's a
right.
very special episode, and you know it's one you don't want to miss. We'll be back with more soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching and listening to Squared Up. See you next time.